Hi, I'm Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life. I talked to acclaimed director and executive producer Roland Emmerich.
When I saw the first race, I was like giddy.
Actor Ewan Ryan.
For an actor, that's a dream, although you do get a lot of sand in your sandals.
And so many more.
You helped summon those ghosts back onto that stage.
Every day when I went to set, I was giggling about what I saw.
I think it's going to be a breathtaking thing.
Gosh, people will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't you love it when you find a new podcast you really like? Well, let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm Mike Carruthers, the host, and in every episode, you'll hear fascinating information that will make your life better from top experts. Recently, we've done episodes on why you have the personality you do, the science of luck, and the psychology of a restaurant menu. You're going to like Something You Should Know. We have literally thousands of 5-star reviews. Look for Something You Should Know wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey there, everybody. Jenny is away for one more week, but I feel like you and I are really getting to know each other on a whole new level. So, I miss her, but this is just nice. It's just nice time for us, you know? I have a few announcements for you before we get to Earshot, where Jenny and I will be talking with Joanna Robinson, friend of the pod, one of our favorite humans of all time. We are so excited, and we had a very wonderful time talking about this episode with Joanna. But let's get to the announcements first. First of all, happy Valentine's Day. Did you know that St. Valentine of Rome was imprisoned for performing weddings for soldiers who were forbidden to marry and for ministering to Christians persecuted under the Roman Empire? Here's the part I think you're going to like. According to legend, during his imprisonment, St. Valentine restored sight to the blind daughter of his judge. And before his execution, he wrote her a letter signed, Your Valentine, as a farewell. So now you know that St. Valentine was a magician practicing magic, and that is where signed Your Valentine comes from. Seems related to Buffy in some way. Discuss amongst yourselves. Speaking of important information, February is Black History Month, and this is a reminder that we have 5 handwritten lyric sheets up for sale. The proceeds are all going to the Brown Boy Project. That's Brown BOI Project, and this is what they do. Launched in 2010, the Brown Boy Project works to transform the way that communities of color talk about gender. They build the leadership, economic self-sufficiency, and health of LGBTQ people of color, pipelining them into the social justice movement. Super important work. You can grab yourself a lyric sheet by going over to our website, bufferingthevampireslayer.com, and clicking on the announcement bar at the top of the page. Also, a reminder, our Time's Up t-shirt, which reads, Be the Thing That Monsters Have Nightmares About, will be up for pre-order until February 22nd. In our first couple of days with this t-shirt, we have raised almost $2,000. As of Sunday, we have raised almost $2,000. So it's Wednesday now. Who knows how far we've come. Joss Whedon retweeted our tweet of the shirt, sharing this message and our work with even more people. So it's been a really incredible campaign. We're really excited about it. And we're off next week. So this is going to be the last podcast reminder for you. You can go on over to our website, bufferingthevampireslayer.com. Just click on shop and you will see it there. You will also see a brand new shirt conceptualized by Maura McDonald and designed by Sophie Argetsinger. It has a gorgeous praying mantis illustration and it reads, Pretty girls just make boys lose their heads. A lyric from, of course, Teacher's Pet. It is so awesome. We're very excited. A new addition to our little patriarchy smashing line of apparel over there. You can find that up again on our website. Just click on shop. Before we go into the show, I also just want to take a quick moment to tell you about an organization that I run. I mention it at the end of every episode, so you've heard of it. It's called My Kid is Gay. And since 2012, My Kid is Gay has been working to provide resources and information to parents and families and loved ones, even educators of LGBTQ people. We work with a network of volunteer contributors to help us build and maintain all of those resources. Literally, almost every person who contributes to the site does so because they volunteer their time. And we're looking for more help in two ways. So I wanted to send out a Scooby bat signal, and excuse me for mixing mythologies there. In the way of volunteers, we're currently looking for two things. We're looking for a social media intern, which is someone who can help us run, as you might imagine, the social accounts over there, as well as more parents specifically who have interest in writing for us. If you have any interest in being a part of the work in any way, you can find all of the details for both that social media internship as well as the volunteer writer application over on mykidisgay.com/buffering. Again, just go to mykidisgay.com/buffering and you'll see all of the information. I just wanted to use this because I know that we have many parents who listen who might want to contribute, and also many of you who might be interested in doing an internship with us. So you can go on over there if that's of interest to you. And of course, let anyone know who you might know who you think would have interest. Last, but certainly not least, today I just want to remind everybody that we're discussing Earshot, so please be advised there will be discussions around school violence and suicide contained within. I love all of your faces. Next time we are here, next week is an off week, so when we come back on February 28th with choices, Jenny will be back here in the intro with me, but it's been lovely spending the last couple of weeks with you. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to Buffering the Vampire Slayer, a podcast where we are watching and discussing every episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer one at a time. Spoiler free. I am Jenny Owen Youngs.
And I'm Kristen Russo, and this week we're talking about Season 3, Episode 18, Earshot. Stay tuned at the end of this podcast every week for an original song written by us, recapping the Buffy episode we're discussing.
Earshot was written by Jane Espenson and directed by Regis Kimball, and it originally aired on September 21st, 1999, which was sometime after the episode that directly precedes it.
Yes, we'll get into that.
Which was in March of 1999.
Yes, we'll get there. But first, an IMDb description.
Please.
This is the one where a mouthless demon infects Buffy with the ability to hear everyone's thoughts. But what starts out as a useful power soon turns into a curse.
Wow. This is also the one where Joanna Robinson is here in our home. Coming at you from the chambers of Sanity Fair.
Yes.
Taking the night off to talk to us about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Hello.
Hello.
Do you guys have chambers at Sanity Fair?
Of course we have chambers at Sanity Fair. Cool. Chambers upon chambers.
Yeah, this is a first. Like, we've all chatted, but not, I mean, we've chatted in the same room and we've chatted on a podcast, but we have never chatted in the same room on a podcast.
I'm going to try to be good about making eye contact with you, but
you don't have to make
I don't usually do this in a room with other people, as I told you guys before, so
we can just Jenny and I can talk to each other.
Yes.
And you can
we do that like any old day.
Yeah.
Should we talk about why this episode aired when it aired? Because that's the elephant in the room, I think.
Yes, please.
So the last episode was what, March?
Yes.
And this episode was slated to air. They must have been taking a break anyway, because this episode was slated to air the week after the Columbine shooting. Mm-hmm. And the fact that those two things aligned as they did is kind of crazy. But obviously they felt like they weren't going to put this on television a week after Columbine. And so they held off. And so the order of things, if you watched this in real time, was that you just missed this entirely because they didn't air it until right before season 4 started. It aired in, like, the season ended in July, which is a whole nother thing that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And then this happened in September and season 4 started in October.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It was like end of September. They aired this episode. And I remember it being like such a crazy thing. This was not something that was done that I mean, it had been done for other things. Like, I think they preempted the Oscars a couple times for like assassinations and stuff like that. But but when, I think it was last year, or maybe 2 years ago, that there was there was that shooting of that news team that happened sort of on camera.
Yeah.
And Mr. Robot eerily had a shooting of someone on camera in their episode. And they delayed it, but they just delayed it by a week because they're like, because that's sort of not to like kick this podcast off on a depressing note, but that's sort of the culture that we're in now is like a week later, we're not thinking about that. We're on to the next
something
crazy.
like 8 other terrible things have happened.
So many, but like Columbine, you know, for your younger listeners or whatever, was such like a dominant thing, and we talked about it for so long, we processed it for so long, so that they delayed airing this for months and months and months, while some people were calling for them to never air it. Like there was a campaign that they should never air it, which I'm glad they did. But
well, and from what I read, and I wasn't able to find like source material on this, but from what I read, it seemed like Sarah Michelle Gellar was actually pushed really hard to have it air when it was supposed to air, because she felt it would be really important, like a really important thing, an important message to share, which like, you know, like I definitely understand some of that, where you're coming from, but it kind of, I think what it misses is the people who were also personally affected by, you know what I mean? Like turn on the TV and
and I think there's more of a case for this episode to go up like, I don't know, a week later or something like that, than that Mr. Robot episode is echoing the violence, whereas this is about preempting that violence and sort of a greater message of understanding and community. And so I kind of agree with Sarah Michelle, but like I also can't fault the network for wanting to just be as respectful as possible, obviously, you know.
Right. Right. And how far we have come in, again, like this is it's a super depressing way to start this podcast, but it's like this is where we are right now. It's kind of where we're living. And just to think about, you know, we were all in various high school. Jenny was a junior, you were a senior, and I was a freshman in college when Columbine happened. And like where we were just in a cultural consciousness of, oh my God, what has happened? Today, I was doing a little bit of research, and, you know, I know that just a few weeks ago, there was a shooting that like barely blipped in like my Twitter feed. Barely anything was said about like the Kentucky shooting, at least, you know, proportionately to how we used to talk about these things. And it's really scary. So I looked up, there was like a sort of a list of all the school shootings. It was actually kind of interesting because it went all the way back to the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was very fascinating to read about. It's just a Wikipedia like page that lists them all. But one happened today. There were in Los Angeles.
The middle school shooting,
like
right?
at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Like it's just the frequency of school shootings has gone up. I mean, I don't know the math, but it's terrifying. I know that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a different time. And also this shooting, for those of you who aren't as familiar with it, was sort of something that was mimicked and mimicked and mimicked and mimicked. That like what happened at Columbine was something that people looked at and wanted to replicate.
It became this whole thing because, you know, they were wearing like these long black trench coats. So that like iconography, like the Columbine killer, like look did become like a copycat thing, and I think that is one of the reasons why the network they like didn't want to feed into any sort of copycat,
right?
And I mean, this is a somber note to start the podcast on, but I did specifically ask you guys to be on this episode because I kind of wanted to talk about this moment and what it meant in the Buffy fandom, and people who were teens in the 90s and people who weren't teens in the 90s, parents and younger kids and all of that, and the culture war that happened. I mean, the culture war that raged over this, where everything from violent video games to Marilyn Manson to whatever else was blamed for the Columbine shootings.
They were fans of Marilyn Manson. Is that where that direct connection came from, or was it just like Marilyn Manson wears black eyeliner and sings about things?
I think all these accusations came from their activity. So like whatever specific video games they played, and you know, and that's all just people trying to grappling to understand how could this have happened. If we just snuff out this one singer, can we stop it from ever happening again? You know, we obviously now with more distance know that that's not the case, but like, and even, you know, as a high schooler, I was like, it's not Marilyn Manson, but it became this hot button, long lasting debate. And I really do feel like now it would be a day.
Yeah.
If even that. you know?
Yeah. The debate was sort of like, as you were talking about, like, this thing happened and then everyone sort of put their focus out, reminded me of another episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is the episode with Moo in it. Because it was like it really was like a mob there was a mob mentality to it of like parents trying to protect children and, media turning children into violent it really got out of control. And I remember being really angry about it as a teenager.
Well, and it definitely already existed. Like, I remember having special assemblies about it in middle school and like conversation, years before Columbine. And that's why, like, there's a scene in this episode, which we'll get to, that Kristen was like, did they write this after? And it's like, we forget that school shootings and, teen violence and stuff like that was something we were talking about before Columbine. It's just Columbine became somehow this overshadowing, like, stand-in for all of it in the 90s. So
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say before we sort of, we're going to talk about this again, but there's a book that I read many years ago, The Hour I First Believed by Wally Lamb, which is it's a novel, but it's about sort of the Columbine shooting and the aftermath and stuff like that. And it was like, because I was aware of the Columbine shooting, but maybe not a lot of the details of it and that sort of thing, or a lot of the psychology of it. I thought that was a really engrossing and educational book to read, and a different sort of perspective, I think, than we usually get on it.
Yeah,
So,
I want to read that.
yeah.
I like Wally Lamb.
I was going to say, Wally Lamb.
Jinx.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I think it was interesting to learn that you both were in high school, because I feel like my experience was just a little bit different. Like, I remember watching it on my, like, little TV, like, watching the news coverage and whatever in my dorm room. But, like, you're a freshman in college, and, like, I knew something big had happened, and certainly we talked about it, but I don't feel like it was probably what you both experienced being in high school.
I can tell you that I had there's a very specific line in the sand of my high school experience that was like a hinging point that was brought about by the Columbine shooting, which was that for most of my time at high school, the front doors to the school were just always unlocked. Like, anybody could walk, any librarian could just walk in at any time.
British man.
Any British man.
Any vampire with an open invitation to learn.
Anybody could just walk in the front door of the school and, like, go into the main office or go to class or whatever. And after the shooting, they installed, like, auto locks and, like, a call box at the front of the school. So
Did
you have
that
to, like,
happen
get buzzed
your
in.
high school?
No.
That's like some quick action by your high school.
I guess,
You know?
Yeah, thinking about how, like, based on the fact that their previous security was just whoever.
Right.
The fact that they did something like that, I guess, so quickly is
But I think people did do, like, metal detectors started going into schools and stuff like that, like, around that time. So
it's so complicated, though, because it's like, you, on the one hand, I'm like, oh wow, that was quick action by the school, but then the other side of that coin is like, incidents like this are used. I mean, we were talking already about how it's used to say, like, you can't listen to Marilyn Manson and you can't play these video games, but it's also used to, like, police people. And in this specific instance, like, students at school, and, like, measures to protect always make me raise one eyebrow.
Yeah.
Because the line gets a little wiggly.
Mm-hmm.
Buffy helping us talk about life issues as usual. Okay, so should we get to mouthless demons?
Yeah.
I think that these are this is the swim team.
Obviously.
Right?
They've
Gage.
evolved.
Yes,
Gage.
Gage is back, better than ever.
They are, like, the same shape. They're just, like, gray instead of.
Yeah, I think they spray painted those rubber suits.
Green, black, right?
100%.
A different color and stitched that mouth together.
Yeah.
One day I want to talk to somebody or several people from the, like, costuming
the critter
and
suit team.
and learn those inside secrets, because I think you're right. I want to meet
the evolution
person,
of werewolves.
Yes, I want to meet the person who picked out the original werewolf costume. I just want to know.
Well, yeah, and this starts with a great, like, Buffy fake out, right? She's running and she looks so helpless in her, like, terrible athleisure wear, whatever she's wearing, and falling, and she's like, "Oh, I'm just a poor slayer, I can't." And then she's like, "Psych, I kick you." Yeah.
I feel like she could have just kicked him.
Yeah, she didn't need to do that.
She's just having fun with it.
Yeah, she's like,
It's hubris, man.
yeah, she's
You
just
know?
bored. She's got to amuse herself. Also, I know because we were sitting in the same room watching this scene that Joanna and I had the same note at the same time when the goo went on Buffy's hand. We both, like, you said Alex Mack as I was writing Alex Mack.
Yeah.
So that was very
I've
fun.
never seen Alex Mack. I don't know anything about Alex Mack. Is Alex Mack Michelle Trachtenberg?
What?
No, it's
No.
Larissa Oleynik.
Wow.
Larissa
I didn't
Oleynik,
know.
of course.
Of course, I did not know.
Obviously.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what's the deal?
name.
She can just become
She
like
was in an
gel
accident, or there was
something?
an accident.
Some sort of radioactive.
Yeah.
It's always a
Not a
radioactive
spider.
something.
Not a
Maybe
spider.
a radioactive pool of mercury bit her.
Yeah, I think so.
It was like a truck crash.
Vat of goo.
Yeah.
Radioactive goo, I'm going to say.
And so now she can. One of the
she
things
herself
yeah.
can become goo.
She can like go underneath doorways. Like she
Yeah.
can like bloop. And
So what's up with like? I mean, I guess we'd need like a reboot of the later years, but like, can she have children?
go.
Is my number one.
Do you know the answer to that, Joanna? I mostly know the mythology of Alex Mack, and I've seen some episodes, but I didn't watch.
What
the
happened
show.
to Larissa Oleynik's reproductive organs?
I mean, it's none of my business. But if we're asking, like, if you're gonna show me some science fiction,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have some follow-up questions, I guess, about like what are the rules here.
Is this like Kyle XY who doesn't have a belly button? And
What's up with that?
Yeah, it raises a lot of questions for me. Can we do an Alex Mack cast?
Starting here.
Wow.
Soon there's just going to be like the 90s television shows are going to be all people are watching, rewatching.
great.
When everyone will have podcasts for
Rewatching,
them.
rebooting.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
we don't have Kate this episode, so I just want to shout out the beautiful pastels that we get in this episode, which of course was slated to air in April, so it makes sense, then aired in the fall. And they were all in like, Xander really knocks it out of the park. He has like
Ooh, a
some,
lemon yellow
Right?
number.
yeah, and like a blue, like a baby blue. And
Yeah.
it just,
But also his sort of like Italian flag shirt
oh, yeah.
is a bummer.
I call it his Christmas
No, that's my
shirt.
favorite Xander shirt.
Really?
Like in the this is the epitome of bad Xander shirt because
yeah.
yeah, it looks Christmassy to me, but
Yeah.
you're right, also Italian flag. But like, aren't there little lights on the like?
Oh, are there?
Is
There's
that
definitely
what's
like
happening?
squiggles of some
Something.
kind.
Oh,
but
God.
it's fitted. It's
At
like
least.
it's like
Yeah.
it fits him. It's not like he's swimming in it. And yeah, it's just the best worst thing that he wears. But Buffy is like, after she changes out of her her baggy athletic patrolling gear, she's in the prissiest outfit. It's a
Yes.
Oh, her pink sweater set?
to channel Caleb, baby pink sweater set with like a little pink handbag, and I'm like, not my fave.
Yeah, she's kind of turning a Cordelia corner with that outfit.
Is it just me, or since Wesley got to town, has the frequency with which Wesley or Giles says charade
Yes.
skyrocketed?
Yes.
Way up.
Yes.
You're gonna make another graph, Jenny?
The charade grab.
If somebody could make a screen grab of with closed captioning of every time charade has been said since Wesley got to town, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then that can inform the graph. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, always putting you to work out there. Screen grabs a go-go.
This is the first time I ever watched an episode with you guys. I
Yeah.
had the
Oh my
joy
gosh, yeah.
of watching this with you guys. And so every time the green mug appeared, I got really excited on
Yes.
Kristen's behalf.
Yeah.
Like,
There are actually plenty of shots where two green mugs were
Yeah, they
both
went
in
hard on this
frame.
episode.
Many a mug.
He's got
Where,
them
like-
all over
Where
his
like they would
office.
frame a shot, and like somebody definitely was like, "We need the green mug in the where it was like,
somebody's
right at the edge of
holding
the
one
shot.
in the foreground, drinking out of
Yeah.
it, and then there's like one on a shelf.
We
in the background.
got called out on something that I think we deserve to get called out on last or 2 episodes ago, I should say, from Doppelgangland. We did not talk about how Cordelia drinks out of Giles's green mug.
transgressive.
Shame.
Shame. Yeah.
But in this episode, there's like a green mug on the like front desk that is just left there as the scoops go off to investigate something. And I was
Yeah.
like, who leaves the green mug unattended? Kristen could just sneak in there and
Yeah,
steal
yeah,
it.
yeah.
They are expensive collector's
Yeah.
items. Even in 90s dollars, they were probably worth A pretty penny.
Yeah, we were gifted 3. Somebody sent us 3 of the D handle green mugs.
Oh, nice.
And then somebody else sent us 1 of the C handle green mugs, which are the like really thick ones.
Rich with green
So
mugs.
I use the D handle ones every day. I have my little tea in my green mug. But the C handle one we like never use because we're afraid to break it.
I use it on special occasions.
Is it dainty? Like,
It's harder to hold because it's this little handle.
it's a dainty thing for dainty ladies?
No, it's like a actually thicker. It's like a diner mug. If a diner mug was like a little bit smaller, but then
gotcha.
proportionately thicker.
Yeah.
You could knock
But it's
someone
just
out way
it's the
easier
rarer,
with the
more
C
expensive version.
Yeah.
So
Do you think your listeners are really excited by how much I just made you talk about mugs?
maybe.
Yes, actually, you bring up a good point. Let's play the jingle.
Well, it's a green mug song from the bottom of our hearts. This very handsome glassware will answer every mug prayer, and Giles can drink in style, and Giles can drink in style.
Great. We haven't heard the Green Mug song in a while, so I think.
They really gave us no choice.
Yes.
In this episode. Love seeing like Giles trying to like look like he knows stuff and then getting called out for not knowing stuff, and then Wesley trying to look like he knows stuff and getting called out, and then Giles delighting in Wesley not knowing stuff. Great.
Yeah,
Great.
there's a little battle happening here, but like a battle where Giles is not. He's like, I'm just playing around with this battle.
I mean, listen, guys, what we definitely know is it's not the flaying of the demon Azeroth. That's important to note.
That is the fact we learn in this.
It is not that. I also have a note that says Wesley trots in, because I believe there's no other verb to describe what happens
100%.
when he enters the frame. He's trotting.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
He's not sidling. He's not ambling. He's trotting.
And like I feel like this trend is continuing where like Wesley is like all buttoned up, and now Giles is like, well, I'm like wearing my vest, but it's like open, and like, I'm just wearing shirt sleeves and my pair of suspenders.
Yeah.
Just like cash Giles.
I mean, costume spoiler alert, which you're welcome to cut out, but it's a slippery slope to like the mom sweaters he wears starting very soon.
I don't know if that's a spoiler or an enticement to.
There's also
stick
some
with the
fleece,
series.
to look forward to.
I really once we get out of high school, I really miss librarian Giles, because like sloppy at home Giles is not my favorite.
Wow. See, as only a one-time viewer of the series, I forgot where we were going.
Mom
And
sweaters.
now that you've said it, you reminded me.
I wear many a mom sweater. I am
Right.
a lover of mom sweaters. I just don't want Giles. I prefer him in suspenders.
Yeah,
so.
suspenders and a lollipop.
Lollipop. A lollipop. So Willow gives some really good advice in this episode, and I just want to like send her some love. There's a lot of scenes in this episode where she's like sitting down with Buffy and like really hearing Buffy out and giving her practical advice. And this scene in the hallway is the first time that I wrote down. She says, like, I invite you to ask. You should talk to your vampire boyfriend. You should talk it out. And as someone who has made a career, well, now I'm making a career off of talking about this show, but originally I had made a career off of giving advice. And I always said if somebody went to every advice post and looked at them all together, they'd realize that all I said was the same thing. And everyone would just talk to each other about your problems. And so Willow does it.
When you were dating a 234-year-old vampire, like did you always make sure to ask
I did
her like what she was feeling?
I did. I always expressed my feelings to her.
Yeah.
I told her how I felt about those years when she didn't have a soul.
Right.
That, it was really
hard.
hard for me.
But she looked really good in that eyeliner, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Looked great in the eyeliner. And then I understood that it wasn't just hard for me. It was also hard for her.
Right.
We had
She had to constantly buy eyeliner. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
I'm so happy to see that Percy is doing better at school. Not surprised, but happy to see it.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like Sarah Michelle Gellar is like always getting quips. She always has quips. But I feel like in this episode, she has like actual great humor and like beats and stuff, like in a way that I feel like we don't normally see Buffy delivering. Like with the infect.
Oh.
Infect.
The rule of 3.
Giles.
Yeah.
In fact, so great.
It's a comedy rule of 3.
Oh, as a mere civilian.
No, I wasn't trying to actually, it's the comedy rule of 3. I was just I was impressed. I was like, Buffy knows the comedy rule of 3.
Yeah.
Wow. We also, this episode also gives us a parade of new students that we've never before seen in Sunnydale, including,
Freddie
I guess,
Iverson.
captain of the basketball team, Hogan Martin. Good old Hogan Martin.
Yeah, there's a lot of new students.
Yeah,
Your
there's-
favorite is what is her name?
Oh,
Nancy Doyle.
Nancy Doyle. Yeah, we'll talk
And
about
Freddie Iverson. But it's an episode of Law and Order, basically. And they have to drop in a bunch of randos to obscure from the obvious who's a person we already know.
Right.
And that's, I don't know if now's the time to, I'll talk about it later.
Fair. I want to say something about this infect situation because I don't know Buffy very, very well, right? We've only gone through a season and then half of a rewatch together so far, but I just feel like that Buffy usually doesn't panic about shit. And I found it odd that she was as panicked as she was about this piece of the demon.
This felt right on
I'm
for
sorry,
me.
aspect of the demon.
Aspect of the demon.
Well, okay,
Aspect
think
of
about
the
it though.
demon.
Think about it. Her seasonal doppelganger, Faith.
Yes.
Ostensibly, same starting materials, another Slayer, just went off the deep end and has become evil. She also has been dating a vampire who, when achieving a moment of perfect happiness, lost, his humanity in one fell.
It hits close to home, is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. And also, she's
One fell what, Jenny?
what? I don't know. I think there was what do you call it when you're under the sheets and somebody's sweeping a flashlight?
Yeah,
and,
there's
doing,
claw rings
ASMR.
and tattoos.
Yeah. What is the verb for that? I can never remember.
Definitely swoop. One fell swoop. They were swooping it up.
Yeah, no, they had sex. So obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it is.
Oh, my fur and whiskers.
All right, touche, Jenny. I believe what you have said. I stand newly aware of this point and now understand. Yes.
So, and also, she's a gal in high school, and I think if
I
there's
want everyone to know that Jenny did a shoulder.
It was magnificent. She transformed herself into
a gal
in high school.
On the syllable of gal, her shoulder
This is what I'm
shot.
missing when I'm not sitting there and watching Jenny metamorphose herself.
Listen, she's a gal in high school, and when are we our most insecure and appearance worried selves, if not in high school, especially if we are a gal? Maybe. I think it makes a lot of sense, on a lot of levels, for her to be wigging.
All right, yeah.
Also,
She's got the wigs.
she's got the wigs. Is this the first time we've seen Cordelia being a cheerleader since
the tryouts.
she tried out? I love it.
I don't know why. I don't even I think it is. I just felt very sure that I had not seen Cordelia cheering.
There's the is that the same is that the witch episode that's about the line about the challenge of spelling words with your arms? Is that from the witch?
Ooh.
That's a great Buffy line. But it might be from that episode.
No.
I feel like we've seen Cordelia in
We've
that
seen her
yellow
in her
sweater.
yellow
sweater.
Oh, but actually actively cheering.
but I don't.
And talking so much about her identity as a cheerleader.
Yes.
And
She's
how underappreciated.
So I'm a cheerleader.
I'll tell
Pay
you,
attention to me.
spoiler alert for this podcast, Cordelia's gonna get a jingle this episode.
Yeah,
in my soul. I had already written down to give her jingle very soon, but then she did so many other things that I loved that we'll hold out.
While the Sunnydale Cheer Squad is spelling everyone's first name out, which I don't remember being a thing, but
Did you ever go to the pep rallies?
They were not optional.
Oh, right, but still,
Your
like
pep was mandatory?
our pep
Mandatory
rallies
prep.
were mandatory too.
They were like
but
during
I
school
didn't-
hours.
I
It
still
was
didn't
like,
go to all of them.
biology is canceled. Go to the gym
We
for
didn't
the
have
pep rally.
cheerleaders or a football team.
What cool
great.
high art high school did you go to?
We had a soccer team.
Also, High Art High School only made me think of the Ali Sheedy movie High Art.
I'm always thinking about the LSU movie.
Which is a very specific type of high school. Just gonna say.
Here's my favorite thing about Sunnydale.
Ooh, wow. Let's get into it.
Depending on the week it is, there's a different sport. I know that sports have seasons. I understand how sports work. But there's a different sport that's like the most important sport at Sunnydale. Like, is it the football team?
Right.
Is it the swim team?
Right.
Or this week, is it the basketball
Changing
team?
it up.
Yeah.
Willow has become a fan of basketball. And a
Yeah.
fan of Percy, who we find out in this scene is very needy, which is
that's
very
cute.
Yeah, I'm a Percy fan.
I'm pro. I love the blossoming relationship
Yeah.
between Willow and Percy. I want to see more of that. We also see, I think for the first ever time, the Razorbacks mascot for one brief moment.
Oh.
It's a person in a boar suit.
Okay.
Which is the first time we've seen a Razorbacks mascot since
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Herbert.
R.I.P. Herbert. So one
Tough.
of the worst losses in the show to date. Like
Yeah.
Jenny
I hope-
Calendar, Herbert.
I hope. No, Herbert. Then.
yeah.
Also, those bones were totally the wrong size, so it's Herbert might be living the sweet life.
Are
and,
you saying like hashtag Herbert lives? Is that what you're saying? First of all, and second of all,
Get it trending, people.
do you think that Xander gets like upsetting flashbacks every time he looks at the mascot?
Ooh, right.
Well, I don't think he has a
in
chance
air
to
quotes
see.
doesn't remember
He
anything.
1,000% remembers.
Joanna.
We're gonna talk plenty, I'm sure, about Freddie Iverson, but let's just like pause and take a moment to acknowledge the fact that he was allowed to print an article where he called the cheerleaders pseudo prostitutes. That was published in the school newspaper.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
Either no one's paying attention, or perhaps the school staff doesn't care about
Has bigger
women.
fish to fry?
Or bigger fish to fry.
Both of those things
Both.
could be true. And this is just another example. It's like Oz and Xander watching, and it's just another example of like Xander being gross to varying degrees of grossness, and Oz just sort of like letting it slide off him like Teflon. And you guys have talked before about like how I think when Ira Madison was on, you guys were talking about like I always thought of Oz as perfect, and I think Ira's point was like, except Oz never called like Xander out on his bullshit. And this is one of those things where like he's like I think he says you're a complicated man or something like that, when he should be like, hey, pseudo prostitutes is not a good thing to call a cheerleader. Like, you know what I mean? That's what my ideal Oz would say.
Right.
But,
Totally.
2018 Oz.
Oz tries to get in it's not really my type also.
Yeah,
he's like, like, but he's just sort of like this guy.
Yeah.
This guy who is not like me at all.
This
in any
friggin'
way.
guy.
Yeah. Speaking of things that guys do, how about when they come up behind you?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I feel like, I'm sorry, I feel like Angel, like this is not Angel's first time sneaking up behind somebody who's using a compact mirror.
Agree.
This is a move he has honed and perfected
Agree.
over 2+ centuries.
Yes.
For sure. Sorry.
No, I mean, that is actually what Angel says. Sorry. Like, no, you're not, dude. You knew what you were hovering. If you wanted her to know you were behind her, you would have said, hey, Buff.
But I do feel like
Buffy.
in other episodes, were Buffy not so distracted by checking for horns or whatever it is she was doing in her compact mirror, usually she'd be like,
she would sense him.
Hey, and without turning around, you know what I mean?
Right. Maybe it was like it's their thing.
I didn't see you there. Whatever.
I didn't see you, so I should have known you were there, is what she does say.
No. She is jealous about even the idea of Angel tracking Faith, like following Faith to like monitor her behavior or see if she's like doing anything evil.
Yeah,
like even
I get
that. Buffy is like, what
I get
the
it.
fuck, man?
Jenny's okay. Here's a thing we've never discussed on the podcast before: is that Jenny does not get jealous
Like it takes like mountains to make Jenny jealous. I've given up trying. Whereas I'm a person who can get jealous. So I like this doesn't read
Yes,
especially
Yeah, you might.
I
If a stray wind kicks up or something.
Exactly. So this, especially like in high school, like forget it. This is a totally reasonable thing to be feeling uncomfortable about because they just kissed. And even though like as adults, maybe we're watching this being like blah, blah, blah. Whereas people who know what a healthy relationship is like, I don't know, but I get it.
I feel you guys have really absorbed the message of this episode. Just try to have compassion and understand the various plights and foibles of Buffy. And Jenny's like, I understand her concern over growing horns. And you're like, I understand her raging jealousy. Let's all understand Buffy in this moment. I don't understand her hair in this episode, but Willow is having a really good hair episode.
Yeah, Willow's like hitting the Pantene hard.
Yeah.
In this episode.
It's a real good look for her.
I learned many years after using Pantene that
Pro V?
Pantene Pro V. What it does is it coats your hair in a substance.
Waxy substance.
That makes it shiny. But
Yes.
I didn't realize that until many years after my Pantene shiny hair was covered in
I like
wax.
to think that Willow Rosenberg was more of an Herbal Essence girl.
Ooh, when did Herbal Essences hit its stride is a important question that we cannot go forward without answering.
Definitely the 90s, or was it the early 2000s? All right, hit pause and we will research.
No, it's the 90s.
You know? Do you know?
You say that, but think about how they're
Orgasming?
That was trying to warn.
Swooping? Did you know, when would you have been able to put it together? But I don't.
No, I'm saying when would you have been able to put it on TV in a commercial?
Oh.
No?
Yeah. Well, let's look it up. Jenny.
It's a recreation of the gasp I just did before I hit record. The brand was founded in 1972 as the single shampoo Clairol Herbal Essence Shampoo.
Wow.
Officially typeset as Clairol Herbal Essence Shampoo. Why did I read the whole
I
thing?
don't
I
know,
don't know.
but get to the point. When did the orgasm start?
I told you I only had partial information.
No, so we have to pause again?
Herbal Essence orgasm commercial. Because, like, in case you're listening and you don't understand,
there are these commercials.
I mean, does anyone want to? I don't want to reenact
no one in this room is going to reenact that.
No.
But there's their commercials in the commercials.
90s era, according to Racked.com. And when has Racked.com ever steered you wrong? I don't know. Oh, they did one with Dr. Ruth. I forgot about that. Oh, and then SNL did Herbal Essences for Men.
The 90s were like a heavily sex positive time. You know, it was when we had
like Loveline.
Exactly. When we had Loveline, Dr. Ruth. There was like a lot of people talking about sex very openly. Salt and Pepper were talking about sex in all their songs.
It looks like 98 was like the height of the orgasm commercial. So we can, in our alternate reality of whatever, we can say that Willow watched the commercial in 98 and was like, that's for me.
Yes.
I'm kind of a crunchy hippie girl. I like to smell like rose petals and also do some swooping. So
that was some of her internal vampire Willow coming out when she was attracted to that Herbal Essence shampoo. So for those of you who don't know what the hell we're talking about still, the commercials, you should just Google
They're
it.
They're on YouTube.
Yeah.
Please start with the Dr. Ruth one.
Basically the beautiful smell and feel of Herbal Essences shampoo would cause women specifically to orgasm.
No, what? No, they're not orgasming. They're just like, yes.
No, but it was
because they love the smell.
But it was it's I think the premise of the commercial
is great.
is that people would be outside the bathroom and they would hear from the shower the sounds, and they're like, she is enjoying herself in the shower, when in fact she was just delighting in the beautiful wasn't scent. The catchphrase like purely organic or simply organic, like a play on orgasmic organic, something like that.
Yeah, I don't think it was organic, but it was like a play on orgasm.
All right. I feel bad that we've just described these commercials and not actually watched them.
Maybe we watch them
with your friends and family.
Yeah, have fun.
Enjoy this relic of the 90s.
So back real quick to Detective Angel.
Detective Angel.
So Detective Angel is, not going to let anything happen to Buffy, But there's a moment here where he explains to her that even if she's like covered in goo, he'll still love her, which is not a plot line we're unfamiliar with because in Go Fish, we heard the same thing from Cordelia to Xander.
Aww.
Even if you turn into a fish, I will still love you.
Yeah, but if you cheat on me, it's fucking over.
Yeah, fair fucking reasoning.
I have to shout out to Oz moments that I believe we've glossed over. And I was watching another season 3 episode earlier today, and I realized that like I was so into Angel in season 2. I really was, my teenage self. I was over Angel in season 3, and I was like on the Oz train. And then after that, it's someone else's train that I am on. But like this is my like Oz year, big time. I know we already talked about my Oz thing on this show, but like Oz saying dryly when they are reading the student newspaper that he usually just goes straight to the obits is a really good line. And then when they're talking about how much they enjoyed the basketball game and Xander goes like, I thought you were going to make an expression, and Oz goes, not going to lie, I felt one creeping on. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
Oz, if I
He's
watched
perfect.
this in high school, I guess I would have been in college now, but if I watched this when it was on, I think that I would have been an Oz. Like, that was always the character I gravitated toward in, like, 90s television and 90s movies.
The Seth
like,
Green character.
The Seth Green character or the, why can't I think of the actor's name from Clueless with the, like, longer hair?
Breckenmeyer.
Breckenmeyer. Yes, the Breckenmeyer character.
Star Rat Race.
Yes. So Buffy's reading minds. We find that out. That's a plot.
And
I
love how it happens because the first time that we watched this in this watch, like a couple months ago probably, I didn't realize, like, because it's not like super overt that Xander's mouth isn't moving, you know? And like obviously there's an effect on the sound, but if you're not like ready for it, you might not necessarily notice it.
Yeah.
And I like had that experience of like putting it together in real time with people on the show. This is a great story.
Well, I love the way I love the way that it's done too when it's many voices. Like I love what they do with this, and this is like kind of what we were talking about with Sarah Michelle Gellar wanting the episode to air. It's like I just think it's really cool that I think they did a very good job at giving us an insight into what's going on in everybody's minds.
I think they did a mixed job with their own characters. Great job with the rando teens in the hallway. Like some of it's really good. You just hear like a random girl go like, "I hate my body" or whatever. But then you hear one boy go like, "Someday my D's are just gonna fall all the way up my body," and that's why I have in all caps. This is definitely what teens think.
Okay, yeah, solid call. I focused on what I liked.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag in that hallway scene.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Someday these pants are just gonna fall right off.
But like the bottom line seems to be that all men are pigs, I guess.
Yeah, which really begs for a jingle, if I do say so for myself.
The patriarchy!
Yes, men, still pigs.
Snyder, one shout out to what Snyder's thoughts were that he had to walk like an Egyptian stuck in his head. Very great. Very, very.
Support for today's episode comes from OneSkin. And if you have sensitive skin, you're going to want to hear about their scientifically proven topical supplements. Free from over 1,500 chemicals and preservatives that can make skin red, irritated, or itchy, their products are safe for sensitive skin. It's just one of the reasons they've earned the skin-safe seal of approval.
They've also earned the Jenny Owen Youngs and Kristen Russo seal of approval, if I do say so myself, Jenny.
I couldn't agree more. I've been using OneSkin for a few months, and after a few weeks, I remember it like it was yesterday. I texted Kristen, and I was like, maybe she's born with it. I looked in the mirror that morning and was like, oh, things are happening, and I am happy.
I have used 1 billion skin products, and I did not think that I was going to switch off of the skin like lotion, the moisturizer that I used and the under eye cream that I use, because I have used them for a little while and I really like them. And I've switched completely, which is a pretty big deal. OneSkin is the world's first
Skin Longevity Company. By focusing on the cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. Get started today with 15% off using code BUFFERING at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with code BUFFERING. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, and if you can, please tell them that we sent you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a co-founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. During her journey, Isla meets new friends, including King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and learns valuable life lessons with every quest, sword fight, and dragon ride. Positive and uplifting stories remind us all about the importance of kindness, friendship, honesty, and positivity. Join me and an all-star cast of actors including Liam Neeson, Emily Blunt, Kristen Bell, Chris Hemsworth, among many others, in welcoming the Search for the Silver Lining podcast to the Go Kid Go network by listening today. Look for the Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, I'm Simon Jack.
And I'm Zing Sing.
And together we host Good Bad Billionaire, the podcast exploring the minds, the motives, and the money of some of the world's richest individuals.
Every episode, we pick a billionaire and we find out how they made their money.
And then we judge them. Are they good, bad, or just another billionaire?
Good Bad Billionaire from the BBC World Service.
Listen now wherever you get your BBC podcasts.
Great. I'm interested in like that Buffy's like first thing is like I can read minds. I'm going to excel in class.
Yeah.
Which had never, I feel like she's never been particularly like academically aspirational or never like portrayed herself as like.
I think she just hates what's her name. What's her name?
Nancy Doyle.
Nancy Doyle. I think she just wants to stomp out.
Well,
Nancy
we don't have
Doyle.
the background on that because, as we already discussed, multiple characters have been inserted into the Sunnydale universe, and like we're expected to like know about them and give a shit.
Right. Context clues. You know.
Yes.
But. First of all, they study a lot of Shakespeare at Sunnydale.
Yeah, it's like maybe the only thing they study.
I think this is just a Shakespeare class. Secondly, I guess this is my time to be empathetic for Buffy, and I will say that I think she's tired of like feeling like a dummy. You know what I mean? We don't think she is a dummy, but like she's constantly behind, and like her mom is always chiding her that she's not doing well in school, and you know her best friend is the brain and all of that sort of stuff. So I mean, I do like that she's not there to show up Willow. Like that's not her intention, but I kind of get it. I don't think that would be like the first thing she would do is what she does later, which is go see Angel. That's obviously the first thing that she would do with it. You know what I mean? But instead,
I think that they're teasing out too, like that she feels not a part of things, you know, like that.
Right. The whole she can't go to the basketball game.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm going to participate in school. You've never seen someone participate in school the way I'm about to.
Exactly. I also just in this scene, a moment that made me laugh is when she says he's the dark half of Othello himself. And like the teacher's wowed, but also all of the students are like, wow. And I was like, really? Like, no, I don't feel that the class would react like that to the revelation, to this deep thought from Buffy. Like, I feel like half of them wouldn't be paying attention. And they were all like, wow.
Or like show off.
Or, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. This is where we get further information about Freddie Iverson, the, I guess, editor-in-chief and only writer of the school newspaper. Willow says excitedly, he's sardonic. So weird, and I couldn't help but say that about him every single time he appeared on the screen after that.
I mean,
he's sardonic.
Do you think that was part of the character description, like when they cast the role? Freddie Iverson, sardonic
teen.
Sardonic teen, yeah. So we go to the mansion.
This is where I have failing vamp girlfriend 101.
Yeah. Jenny was so upset about this too.
Why? First of all, okay, Buffy should be careful with the drapes in the middle of the day. But also, angels should maybe just not be pacing by the drapes in the middle of the day. And most importantly, why does an angel have some kind of airlock, like spaceship airlock, New York restaurant in the winter time, sort of double
curtain?
Like you have the curtains and then you have the other curtains. And then you don't have this fucking problem.
Yeah, it does seem very close to the sun.
I feel pretty strongly that if he were to double insulate the mansion, then he wouldn't have an excuse to build a fire, and
but also it would be warmer, and there would be a reason he's just wearing a tank top again.
Sure. He's like, well, given the double insulation, I gotta take my other shirt off. I mean, my question is, why hasn't he done like the bare minimum of what Spike would do, which is paint the windows black or something?
Yeah,
you know what I
he's
mean?
too like classical. Like that's like Spike paints the windows black because of practical reasons, but also because he's like punk rock.
Yeah. What about stained glass?
Ooh.
Would a vampire get burnt? Like
I don't think so.
Yellow.
No,
stained glass?
yes, but maybe slower.
Okay, yeah, fine. Maybe slower, but I feel like there are a lot of vampires in non-direct sunlight that we see often. So I feel like
Doesn't it seem like Angel's the kind of pretentious asshole who would have stained glass all up on Vamp Mansion?
Yes,
totally. But he
100%.
also that's a found mansion that he moved into. It's not like his property.
He seems to have plenty of money.
Interior decorated it though.
But like
he went to
to Pottery Barn. Yes, but like imagine. Okay, first of all, contractors who come in and replace your windows are going to do that during the day. So then you're not even going to have.
You don't think that Angel has glazing skills? He's on the glazier.
He can also go to his favorite antique shops and buy some windows to hang in front of
But
the
I guess, I mean, like, if
windows.
it is, I mean, I learned listening to this really informative podcast that Sunnydale is actually Santa Barbara. And in Santa Barbara, there is like a relic of a mansion that overlooks sort of the town.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe people maybe aren't noticing that there are roaring fires in this mansion or whatever, but maybe they would notice one day if like all the windows suddenly became elaborate stained glass.
Yes, but I think it's more like Angel is like, what? This is like 13th century glass, like with the original like warp to it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like
this is some sugar glass.
That's jerk.
I feel like he's committed to maintaining the original glass.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that just seem like what he'd be into?
Sure does.
Yeah. You know what else he's into? That his thoughts also don't cast a reflection.
More metaphysics.
Yeah.
The way that he delivers that line, like, it's like the mirror. The thoughts are there,
but they create no reflection.
Like, get fucking over yourself, bro.
Don't ever get over yourself.
I do kind of like the way that Boreanaz like as Angel is just sitting there and she's like doing her transparent thing, and like and like I don't like we don't like, can he tell that she's trying to get in there or like what? I don't know how he figures out.
Well, he's
not that it's hard to figure it out.
He's a detective.
Detective Angel.
But he just stares blankly forward and finally he's like, you can't read my thoughts.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen, bro.
And then he explains his sordid past with bad girls.
Hundreds.
You wouldn't believe how many.
Oh my god.
We also get an age confirmation.
Yeah.
243.
He's had 2 birthdays since the show began.
So this is canon that Angel does not count his years in the hell dimension. Yeah.
Well, there were no
bad
cakes,
girls.
no cakes in the hell.
No cakes. They gave him no cakes.
It's just that if you are 243 years old and you've only ever loved exactly one person, don't you think you would like maybe have the presence of mind not to like, after being like, I don't want a bad girl, I've done that before, to maybe just like stop yourself and not say, I've been with dozens of girls like her. And then maybe stop yourself there and not say more.
I don't know. I mean, he is a funny guy, so.
Okay, but this is like credit where it's due.
Yes.
Oh, one of the best Boreanaz line readings of all time.
Yes. True.
She says, she's like, immortality is a burden or whatever, and he's like, I'm dying to get rid of that. That's funny. Deadpan. I'm a funny guy. It's great.
It is.
Great.
It is.
Great comedy.
I think I like this whole scene with Angel. I feel like we get another little layer of Angel.
Yeah. And I really could have done without his like past of swooping every bad girl that he ever saw ever. But.
I just felt like he was very, I don't know, it seemed like that's something you would do, Jenny. Just like
100%. That's why I'm judging him harshly.
I see.
The next scene is where we find out like what how each of the Scoobies are like going to react to having their mind read. And going into it, I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw Earshot, within the last couple of years, but I was going into it, I was like, I know there's one person who like whatever they think, they just actually say it. And I was like, is it Oz? No, Oz is thinking about like Descartes. It's not Willow. It's not Zan. And then like, and I was like, and then it happens. I was like, oh, of course it's Cordelia. It's perfect.
Literally the whole episode.
Yeah.
It's everything she thinks that she says, which I think we should give her jingle for. Because you know what? She doesn't like tact. And,
No.
And she proves herself in this episode.
Cordelia, I love you, Cordelia. You're perfect, Cordelia.
Speaking of Cordelia, another unfortunate Wesley inner
Come
monologue.
on, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I just can't do this
pass.
plot line. It's a
not
bad,
great.
never a good time for the plot line, but especially not a great time for this plot line. I just
Yeah.
have no room for it.
No thanks.
No, thank you.
Xander scrambles to do some like very bad hell math.
Oh.
When he's trying to think unsexy thoughts, he's like 5 times 4 is like 23 or something.
Oh, I thought he got him right until he got up the chart to where he couldn't do them anymore. He got them wrong.
Yeah, he was just doing bad math.
Wow.
Bad math.
We just came out of a Cordelia jingle and you said hell math. We got to have another jingle.
Sorry.
No, I mean, I think the people would be happy if all we did was play jingles the whole time.
Hell math.
One of the best Oz exit lines of all time in the history of the show is "As Willow goes, so goes my nation." Right?
Yes, of
Um,
course.
But "Follow the Redhead" is also a good one from this episode. So
He's just so aware, you know? He's just so aware of like being present with his girlfriend and like, it's just really nice.
mm-hmm.
He's a good pick.
So it's a very quick turn from delightful new gift and skill to unbearable burden,
Right.
isn't it?
Right. I mean, it stands like this is a pretty easy jump for me. You're talking about the mind reading,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, right. How could you go through life like this and survive and not lose your entire mind? You couldn't.
Especially when somebody in the cafeteria is gonna kill everyone tomorrow.
This is very overwhelming to me. Like when
All
the
the voices?
when the voices like really get to a fever pitch in the cafeteria, like it makes me very anxious. I think they did a good job, is what I'm trying to say, of making me feel anxiety, making like the viewer feel a lot of anxiety from the like increase of how many voices and how quickly they're all talking, and you know, it's very like. I don't know why, but I wanted to say like it's very Slytherin when the last voice.
Oh,
is
like parcel tongue?
Yeah, that's why. Thank you. I was like, what is the thing that I'm thinking of?
Right.
Because it like all stops and then you just hear that one like
Hissy.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad someone got to say parcel tongue.
Jonathan is also here. No big deal, guys. It's fine. He's just here for one scene, I think, right? He's just here to talk about mashed potatoes, and that's it. The usual Jonathan thing.
Just
He's like, hey, I'm here. I wear striped shirts. I'm
Yes,
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
I have only striped shirts.
People who were watching the series for the first time when we were like, Jonathan, we're so confused. And I think they're rounding the bend to understanding why Jonathan is somebody. It's somebody. Jonathan's a person.
You know when you fucking pass out and then people pick you up and carry you all the way outside
To the lawn?
I'd like to see that scene where the 6 of them carried her out to the lawn.
And I'm with Cordelia. That's just not safe.
Yeah.
You don't know what kind of spinal injuries you might have had.
That's true. This is also like a very popular GIF, which was my first thought when I saw it. The like
everybody
looking down.
all of them looking down. I've seen this many times in my feed.
I really like how often you guys are like, oh, it's a gifable moment.
Yeah. So they're gonna make a list of the students who are in the cafeteria so they can start their own personal detective work.
Guess what?
Yeah.
It's all the new students we've met in this episode, plus Jonathan.
I did not see that coming.
Oh my God. Blew my mind. What's hilarious is there's like so many students in the cafeteria when that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, Xander's the only one we see canvassing other people, and he's just being a real hard creep about it.
That whole scene, that like breakdown of all of their investigative questioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, wait. First, I want to talk about Giles. being a dad in this moment when Buffy is, recovering from passed out. And I was like, oh, Giles is being such a dad. And then he has the thought of, if it doesn't go away, she'll go insane. Which is like,
cool it, dude.
Keep it together, man, just for a second.
Hear you.
And then if we're going to talk about the investigations, for the questioning first, I just don't want anybody to panic. We're going to come back to a very important scene.
Yeah.
What happens between here. But yeah, the cross-examinations of Jonathan is like funny.
Yeah.
And Oz, I thought was really funny. The Oz and Percy basketball court.
No, that wasn't Percy. That was what was that guy's name?
Martin.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Kristen can't tell one sports guy from another sports guy.
When he's asking him like how much strain like blah blah puts on him, and Hogan Martin goes, moderate strain? Is that
a good answer?
I want to get it right.
I think that's why in my mind it was Percy, because it was like,
I really like Hogan Martin, and I'm bummed. I mean, like, okay, first of all, when we were watching this through the first time, I was like, why do we bother with like making Hogan Martin a character when we have a perfectly good Larry? And then I later found out why, because they deployed Larry very well, or mixed. But but when Hogan Martin is so charming in this episode, I was like, I wish we had more Hogan Martin.
Yeah.
Why didn't Hogan Martin go to college?
It's like Donna Martin graduate,
Yes,
Hogan Martin
Also graduates and matriculates.
Wow.
Hogan Martin matriculates.
Oh my God. This summer on the WB, Hogan Martin matriculates.
Oh my
Wow.
God. Cordelia doing Cordelia's thing. Excuse me, were you planning to kill a bunch of people tomorrow?
It's for the yearbook.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And then this is what you were mentioning. My note is just fucking Xander.
Yeah.
Not helping anybody, just trying to flirt with ladies.
No, dude, like that's what you're gonna do when your friend is like in peril.
Right.
Come on, man.
Your friend's in peril, and there's
man.
possibly going to be a school shooting tomorrow, and you're like,
What's up, ladies?
talking to some girl named Candy. It's the worst. We skipped over a couple scenes. Like, I know we're going to get to like the super important scene, but we also skipped that scene that Kristen thought was written after it happened, which is where Oz has the line that school shootings are bordering on trendy at this point.
Yeah, and I had done so much Columbine reading today, I think, that I had like convinced myself that was the moment. I mean, it was a moment, but it wouldn't have occurred to me that before that was something that was already part of our consciousness as much as it was, even though I lived through it.
I think the rifle in the watchtower, which is something that they like, the high-powered rifle in the watchtower, or the tower, not clock tower, watchtower, all along the clock tower. That's like, I think something that makes me think of like, I feel like it was happening on college campuses or something like that before. Anyway, in all the articles that I read about like the Buffy cast giving interviews about this episode being delayed, that line got brought up over and over and over again as something that they sort of had to like defend because it sounds a little flip.
So
Yeah, but probably maybe after Columbine they wouldn't have written that scene.
Right. Oh yeah.
Or
right.
that line.
I don't think
that way.
I don't think you'd see a line. At least I think you might see a line written that way, but not delivered in that way. Like, you know what I mean? Like if there was a darker edge to it or something, but it was just sort of it was very flippant.
Yeah, I wouldn't make it an Oz line for sure. We get a shot of the newsroom where we see a handful of headlines, including apathy on the rise. Nobody cares.
Well, he is sardonic.
Freddie Iverson is sardonic.
This is like Freddie is Veronica from Heathers. Like, he's
wow.
I love it.
Yeah.
Do you guys identify with Freddie Iverson at all?
Yeah.
I mean, in that I hide under my desk when I've written bad reviews of things. Yes. Every time. I wish I had his fashion sense though. And then is this a segment of the podcast where I teach you guys Cockney rhyming slang?
Yes, please.
Giles, in reference, I must be to Wesley, though I didn't write it down, but I'm sure it was Wesley. He calls Wesley a Burke, which is Cockney rhyming slang for... You guys know how Cockney rhyming slang works, right?
No, not at all.
Okay, I'll use the example of apples and pears. Apples and pears means stairs. So that's Cockney rhyming slang for stairs. So like, fell down the apples and... Oh, I just offended all your Cockney listeners. Fell down the old apples and pears, all right? And then sometimes you just take the first word, not the rhyming. So pears rhymes with stairs. Sometimes you just take the first word and you just say the apples. That's how Cockney rhyming slang works.
Wild. How do you know all of this?
Raging case of Anglophilia. Like, put up your dukes is put up your Duke of Yorks is put up your forks. Like, that's where that all comes from.
Wow.
So,
you're blowing people's minds right now.
So Burke is Berkshire Hunt, and the hunt rhymes with the C word that sounds like hunt.
Put it together, folks.
Wow. Sliding it past the FCC.
Yeah.
What's
up?
Berkshire Hunt.
Yeah.
You draw your own conclusion.
I would have had no idea.
So when he said it, I gasped. I was like, that's a rough for, I mean, the C word means something different for British people, but I was still like, wow, all right,
Jazz. Thank you for that Thank you for that educational lesson.
Please, I'm looking forward to all of your British listeners being like, she got it all wrong. Let me tell you how it really
The
is.
apples and pears, though. I think I might start saying that. Is that okay?
It just,
to use it?
It just feels overwhelmingly chaotic. Like how there's no accountability. Something has to rhyme and remind you of something else. Like what?
Yeah. But what if you developed your own buffering rhyming slang?
Oh my God.
Submissions welcome.
Great.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's talk about an Englishman and,
and
an American.
Another amazing moment of Sarah Michelle Gellar comedy, I think.
Yeah.
Well done.
And an amazing missed opportunity from Kate Leth here with the cow pajamas, because that's important. Very critical piece of costuming.
I think I talked about this the last time that I was on, but whenever I think of an episode of Buffy, like I usually have like 3 images and 4 lines that sort of flash in my mind. And for this, it's like the Quicksilver goo, the cow jammies for some reason, Jonathan, and then like what's about to happen that we're about to talk about. But the cow jammies for some reason are integral to like the whole thing for me. I don't know why.
So this is the scene that we got not yelled at, but when we did Band Candy, I didn't remember this, so I was like, but did they have sex or did they not? And I got a lot of emails of like, were you just not spoiling it or did you not remember?
And you're like, oh yeah, I was not spoiling it.
No, I just didn't remember.
I'm a really thoughtful podcast host. What's your problem?
But yeah, we get confirmation here.
And I read an article that said that Jane Espenson, who wrote this episode, put that in so that there would be no debate.
Nice.
There would be no Kristens being like, but did they? She's like, they did.
Twice. Damn it, Kristen.
They herbal essence all over that.
Amazing. Yeah, it's a really great moment. And just Joyce like not coming into the room. Like,
yeah, it's just doing anything she can to stay out of the room so she doesn't accidentally think it so that Buffy can hear it. And also like this is another great example of what we were talking about in a recent episode where somebody needs to get information, but there's not a like realistic way that it would happen.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Maybe Buffy doesn't need this information per se, but we need her to have it so that we can laugh and laugh. And what better way for her to get that information than to suddenly be given the gift of mind reading and then have to hear her mom try not to think it.
It's so good.
So it's like, you want a pillow? You want a blanket?
I gotta go. Gotta get back to the gallery. It's a very busy weekend.
Wash your other cow jammies. I gotta
go look at some other masks to hang in my bedroom.
I have to go by Pat's grave.
Oh, single tear. Speaking of proud gay characters like Pat.
Yes.
Larry. Congrats, Larry.
Congrats on coming out, man.
Living his best life.
Not just, I mean, listen, gay ladies, I'm about to tell you about good depiction of gay characters.
Yes, please.
Well, I really like that, Xander's assumption is that, like, being gay is, like, definitely puts Larry at the top of the list for being the mass murderer in the school. And Larry's like, yeah, I'm good too, though. Yeah, being gay, as I'm not shameless plug or whatever, but I'm working on this other podcast called Still Watching, where we're watching American Crime Story Versace, and there's this whole hesitancy around that because any time that there's a mass murderer who's a gay character, it's like this is an uncomfortable or like overly used stereotype in pop culture. And so the fact that they're like, is the mass murderer the gay character? Hell no, Larry's super well adjusted.
Yeah.
So it's fine. Xander still has a touch of the gay panic, but Larry's doing fine.
Right. Larry's grandma is even doing fine. Like, great. Good job, everybody.
And then.
Why
and then.
And then
big
what?
Size.
And then Giles goes by the summer's home. And what's he wearing?
I gasped.
You
guys
did.
heard me.
You so did.
Loud. We said, like, Joyce is standing in the doorframe, and behind her is Giles striking a pose. I please go rewatch the scene where they're both in the doorframe of Buffy's bedroom, and I was like, "What is he wearing?" And Jenny's like, "He knew he was going over there. He's wearing a black button down. It's
unbelievable.
It's very good. I'm like, this is." It's a Randy Ford Giles fashion watch. It's the most Kayla thing that's ever happened. It's a black button down with a tweedy blazer on top, some dark slacks, no tie, rumpled hair.
Looking good.
Looking great.
Yeah, if you don't have
just rolled off the hood of a police car.
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't kick him off the top of a police car.
Oh, so to cool us down from our overwhelming heat from seeing Giles in this outfit, we get to watch Buffy drink heart pulp.
That's like the most elaborate container you've ever seen. Like
it's like a beaker.
Why wouldn't they use a Nalgene bottle? Like why?
Because Angel did it. Yeah. Angel was like, I need to get the heart, and then I need to stop by the antique store for the perfect beaker.
But it's got like a wood. It's the craziest thing. I want to know if one of the Buffy writers found that at a flea market or where that prop came from.
Yeah, one of these days we're gonna get all the answers we need.
I can't wait.
I hope anyway. So Jonathan is in the clock tower. It's revealed that it is Jonathan in the clock tower.
With the high-powered rifle.
Yes, with the high-powered rifle.
Blazing past Angel to become the sweatiest character who has ever been in this show.
I feel like Danny Strong has always been sweaty on this show. This is his sweatiest.
Oh yeah, because I was like, this is extreme.
This is by far his sweatiest.
You feel like he's been nervous sweaty?
Yeah, he's always a little flop sweaty. That's Jonathan's thing.
Well, it's probably really hot in the tower too, if you think about it. Like it's high up.
Well, he also is about to do something.
Yeah, he's also
upsetting.
stressed.
Right.
And then Buffy's yelling at him. I just love this use of Jonathan. This isn't Janice Benson also said that it was her idea to make the person Jonathan rather than Hogan Martin or Freddie Iverson or what's her name, Nancy Doyle.
Yes.
Nancy Doyle in the whatever. Anyway, point being that they took this side character, and then this is I'm not going to talk more about it, but I'm just going to say that this is not we already saw with Anya. I think the show more and more is taking characters that you think are one-offs or side characters or whatever, and Larry too, and just really starting to develop them and give them dimension and stuff like that. And I love this use of Jonathan. Jonathan is one of my favorite characters in the whole Buffy lore. I have a huge soft spot for Danny Strong, who's now a big shot.
Yeah.
Screenwriter and producer, but it's a genius choice. I think,
and I think they do a really good job with it too.
Danny's great.
Yeah,
we're best friends. My
Danny's
boy Dan
great.
is great.
And we'll be able to talk about this a little bit more down the line, but I just want to put a pin in this, and hopefully then I'll remember to pick up the pin in a handful of episodes. But this episode aired out of order, and we watched it sort of seeing would it have really messed anything up? And this conversation is something that will, I think, touch on in another episode that might have been a little weird. It would have
been helpful to have this episode.
It would have been helpful
for an episode you guys are going to talk about soon.
Yes.
Right? The note that I have after Jonathan's so sweaty, which is a note that I have on my phone, is, and I said this out, I feel it's weird watching the episode and then talking to you guys about it because you've already heard some of my quips. Oh my God. But right before Buffy said this, I was like, oh, this is the Don Draper moment. And one of my favorite the Don Draper line that haunts me the most from Mad Men is,
should I cover my earmuffs?
It's not really a spoiler. It's just classic Don Draper, which is this character who works for him, Ginsburg, in the elevators, you think this about me and you think this about me and you're so wrong, blah, blah. And then he just says, cool as a cucumber, I don't think about you at all. I think about that all the time. Whenever I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, this person thinks this about me. And I'm like, no, probably don't think about me at all. And that's what Buffy says to Jonathan. She's like, I don't think about you much at all.
Yeah.
Buddy.
Because and it's like she just got that insight too, that you know, she knew probably for herself that, you know, she could infer, but then having this experience of like, oh, wow, like literally everyone is thinking about themselves, which is true. That's what everybody does all the time. We
But
think
also,
about
like,
ourselves.
maybe have this conversation with Jonathan later.
Well, I mean, if she
feels
had
like a
known-
little harsh.
It feels definitely harsh.
Oh,
if
but
hadn't-
she thinks
she
that
thinks he's about to
he's-
kill everyone
yeah.
rather than like kill himself.
Yeah. Right.
It's she's like A, right, B, kind of sympathetic, but C, harsher than I think she would be if she thought he was up there just to hurt himself.
Right,
You know?
right.
100%.
Yeah, because she's mostly angry. I mean, she's like glad to be there and wants to de-escalate the situation, but she's like, this dude was gonna.
She also just like ran up the
Oh my
railing
God,
of like
yeah. Can we talk about that?
Just like Nancy Doyle would have
Holy
done.
I can see
shit.
that.
Buffy's done a lot of cool shit up to this point in the series, but this might be one of my top moments. Like the moment I just thought of when I said that is way early on when she does that flip when Angel and her in the alleyway, like
Ooh,
the
and
first
she's
time
like,
she meets
mhm,
Angel or
doing a handstand
yeah,
on a rail.
the pole. This is up there with that move. That's
yeah, and
great.
then she like, and then the way she gets herself up on the roof, she
Oh
does
my
like
God.
a wire stunt flip in the air and stuff like that.
in front of the whole school.
Yeah, so
Yep.
if she was trying to keep her identity under wraps,
yeah.
Those
Cat's
days are
out of the
gone.
bag. Slayer's out of the bag. So before we have, I think the scene that we're talking about with Jonathan, I just really want to make sure that we talk about Cordelia's business suit in the scene where they find out, of course, that Freddie is not. Gonna
He just
kill
wrote a bad
anybody.
review about the dingoes ate my
Right,
baby,
right,
but
right.
like, she's wearing a full-on business suit, and I have a note that says Cordelia full-on business suit, but it's like distracting because of Willow's yellow bucket hat.
Yes. It's like they really went hard on like, let's really show their characters in
Yeah.
their costume. And
You're
this
a yellow
scene.
bucket hat person, and you're a business suit lady.
I'll tell you who I was in high school was a bucket hat.
I didn't notice any of those things.
Oh my
because
God.
I was too busy listening to Cordelia talk about how the cheerleaders are so unsung, which is my fave. That is all.
She right after she reads Jonathan's suicide note.
Oh my
I know we
God.
just watched this episode, but how did does he say in his note where he is? How does Buffy find him?
I don't think so. I think she sees him.
Yeah,
Oh,
she
she
sees
sees
him.
him up in the
They're
clock
like
tower.
they're reading that letter, like that.
Oh, she's not
it's
even in
just
this
a
scene.
happy
Yeah, you're right.
coincidence.
Yeah,
or like
she sees him up there, and man, I'm gonna go to that high school and just see if I can do it. I want to see if I can do
You gotta
it.
wear you gotta
Didn't do
wear
that.
some sneaks.
Yep. Yeah,
And
that was
some voluminous pants.
we noticed that when we watched the episode was like finally some sensible footwear
Yeah, but
for
some,
Buff.
some baggy pants.
Sorry, I
Some
keep
vulgar.
calling her Buff. That's like what Angel calls her when he's Angelus.
When he's evil.
Yeah, I know.
Are you evil right now?
And
Are you evil
maybe,
right now?
Maybe I am. Nancy gets a good line also. I could have done that. I could have done it.
Were you a Nancy in high school?
No.
No.
I was like a wannabe Oz in high school. I was a wannabe Rayanne Graff if we're going to be really serious about who I was in high school. And I was
you
much
want to be
more
sedated. I get it.
Yeah, but I was much more of an Angela Chase. But I don't think Angela Chase is a Nancy.
No. Cheryl is a Nancy.
Ah,
Sharon
is a Nancy. Yes,
All right.
Sharon is the Nancy.
Sorry,
Mm.
guys.
You know, Sharon's a lot cooler than
Well, but
people
Sharon is
give her credit
Sharon
for.
But maybe Nancy's a lot cooler.
Yes, Sharon is
No,
fleshed
I
out.
can tell.
way more. You can tell. You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe
no
Nancy,
offense.
Maybe Nancy just needs a Rayanne Graff to shake her up a little. bit.
Exactly.
maybe.
Oh
She's-
my
She is rocking some like
God.
really aggressive knee socks at one point in the episode. We'll say that for her.
So Jonathan, we figure out was not gonna hurt anybody, would never hurt anybody. He says in such a sweet, like believable, it's just a very nice, like I would never. And then of course there's this scene which I know you love because we watched the episode together, and when this scene started, you were so excited, Joanna, with the Jell-O. And
It wasn't the Jell-O; it's the shot of her
with the rat
with
poison.
the box that says rat poison.
giant letters.
The lunch lady, which is not a trope you see very much in comedy anymore, but the lunch lady was such like a trope in the 90s. I
Yeah.
think because of like you can't do that on television.
I was gonna say that. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it makes me think of.
And like I think Chris Farley did a lunch lady character and stuff like that. So like that's a hardcore trope. But like her just frozen. It's like it's such an anticlimactic dating moment of like the whole thing's happening, and then like Xander in pursuit of Jello just stumbles upon her.
In pursuit of Jello. And someone wrote in a long time ago, back in November, but really wanted to get ahead of the curve and told us, hey, if you haven't noticed it, watch the scene where Buffy is fighting the lunch lady. And all of a sudden you'll see the stunt double, and the stunt double is like a tiny man.
Yeah.
Instead of the lunch lady. And so we watched, knowing this, Scott S., thank you for that heads up. And you should go back and watch it if you haven't seen it, because it is like just literally a small man in the lunch lady outfit.
With a bad wig on. Like,
Yes!
Kristen was like, oh, we've been told to look for the stunt double. So I was looking for the stunt double, but I didn't have like tiny man in my head. I was just like, okay, different stunt double, different person. And then I was like, that is a small man. What's happening there?
It's just like really, really funny. So go back and watch if you haven't.
There's a line, to go back quickly to the Buffy Jonathan sort of, there's a line that I just remember repeating to myself as a teenager because I don't know, I had problems. Where Buffy says, my life happens to occasion suck beyond the telling of it. That's a line that stuck in my head forever. And
well crafted.
It's well crafted, but it's also like a little torturous and weedy or like whatever, but like it just stuck in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like something I would say to myself when I was feeling self-pitying or thinking about other people, you know.
Right. Like on an occasion when maybe like you had sex with your boyfriend and then he lost his soul and then he opened a gate to hell, and then the only way you could close the gate to hell was by murdering him, even though he had just been reinsouled before your very eyes and had no memory of what happened, and looked into your eyes and was like, Buffy. And then you kissed him, and then you thrust a sword into his chest and then pushed him into the gaping maw of a Kafla.
Yeah, and then you put on like your sad overalls. and then the Sarah McLachlan kicks.
Yes, all those things.
Like that. Like
the winter is like really cold and bitter. I'm just saying. So
you're not gonna, you don't want to sing for us
in front of you guys. No.
I wrote, wow, nice outfit, Buffy. Oh, because in the last scene, she's wearing this
black and white
outfit that is really nice. The skirt is like, like you can see that the top layer is see-through, but then there's like a underneath layer that's white. I'm just really into it.
And like really high black boots. Actually, my favorite outfit, and maybe one of my favorite Buffy outfits ever, is early in the episode, the gray sweater with the black tank top and the long gray skirt with the embroidery.
Now that skirt I noticed.
Yeah, that she like faints in the cafeteria. I love that outfit. Sorry.
Traditional fainting skirt.
It looks really good on the floor covered in mashed potato.
So this the thing I don't like about this last scene is that she shares this moment with Jonathan, and it's really like a nice moment, or like, and then I don't know, I just feel like a lot of it's undone when she's like, ugh, I wouldn't ever, like, he was,
what am I, Saint Buffy?
Yeah,
he's 3 feet
yeah,
tall.
what a bummer.
Like,
so unnecessary.
I know, and probably realistic to, or like probably authentic to perhaps her character. She's a high school student, and I'm not saying all high school students would behave like this or speak like this, but certainly it's not far from.
It's a fucked up time.
It's a fucked up time, but I still hate it.
I'm not going to problem with him. I'm going to the problem with my 234-year-old. What, 243?
Yeah. Just shaving 9 years off.
A lot of bad girls, like more than you think.
Yeah. And then luckily we turned the corner out of that less than happy moment to the final line.
Just gotta let him know. Just gotta let him know.
I read that that Giles walking into a tree on the way out of the episode was Anthony Stewart Head's idea, and he did not think Joss would let him do it. But it's a great.
And what do they say in West Wing? An arboreal.
Ooh, an arboreal. Came to an arboreal stop,
Arboreal stop.
Yeah.
Right. One of my
was.
favorite lines, perhaps my favorite line in the whole series, and fitting since we just spoke with Rishi.
Yeah.
Yes, Giles comes to an arboreal stop with the revelation of this information. So there it is.
What do you do when your not daughter finds out that you had sex with her mom?
Oh, you run into a tree and then you drink a cup of tea.
But then you should just go immediately and have more sex
Yeah,
with Joyce.
well, once she knows, it's like the
Put
damage
the
is
black
done.
shirt back on.
Yeah.
Rumple your librarian hair and go on
Bring
over.
her record over, man. She's waiting for you.
Joyce the Craftsman
does not have a record.
Meet you at the Craftsman.
Oh, wow. Joanna, I'm so glad that you're here.
What a joy.
I can't believe that you're here
What a
in
treat.
person. This has been
You and I only met face to face. Like, was that a week ago? I don't remember.
Yeah,
2
I mean,
weeks
only
ago?
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. And now here we are.
Jenny and I are old friends. of
Way
at
back.
least
Way back.
a few months.
Yes.
Rich history.
I know that. I mean, you are like top friend of the pod. You know, you're on our podcast all the time. We would love to have you on it every day of our lives. But will you just tell if somebody's listening to this episode and they've never heard you on our podcast before, and they've somehow never heard you on every other podcast that
Seems
you
impossible.
do. It seems impossible. But
Or
will
maybe
you
like they didn't like me the last couple times I was on, but this time I won them over with irrelevant mug and or shampoo and or Larissa Olnianek and or cocky rhyming
slang? I think is your ticket in. I think
Well,
that's
working for you this episode.
Yeah, so I write for a website called Vanity Fair, not to be confused with Sanity Fair. And you can find me on Twitter at Joe Wrote This, and I do some other podcasts like Little Gold Men about award season, Storm of Spoilers about whatever. This week I ranted a lot about Gay Dumbledore. And
Ooh, I'm gonna listen to that.
A lot of thoughts about it. And also Still Watching, where we are watching American Crime Story, the assassination of Gianni Versace.
Wow. So many thoughts in your head at all times.
And then like I can't keep them to myself. I just spew them out. I'm like Cordelia. I just think of it, then I say it into a microphone, and I make you listen to it.
Well, I'm Jenny Owen Youngs, and when I'm not making this podcast, I am making hot jams. You can hear some of them at jennyowenyoungs.com/buffering, and you can give me a shout on Twitter at Jenny Owen Youngs. And I'm Kristen Russo. You can find more about me on my website, KristenNoeline.com. That's KristinnOeline. You can also use the spelling I've just given to you for the first time ever to find me on Twitter and on Instagram. And you can learn more about the work that I do with LGBTQ young people and their families over at everyoneisgay.com and mykidisgay.com. Buffering the Vampire Slayer is on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at BufferingCast. And you can always drop us an email at bufferingthevampireslayer@gmail.com. Yes, and you can support the podcast in a few ways. One, of course, going on over to iTunes and rating and reviewing us. Two, going to bufferingthevampireslayer.com and clicking on Patreon, becoming a part of our Patreon community. It really helps the work here continue to go on, continue to grow, and you get really fun things in exchange. Like, for example, next Sunday, February 25th, we are all getting together. All of us patrons are getting together to do a Buffy watch of Doppelgangland, which is a pretty fun episode. I think you could all agree with that. That's something really fun we do for any level. So patrons, heads up, reminder to you, Sunday, February 25th. All the details are on the secret Facebook page, and they're also in the Patreon only posts. You can find them there if you want to join us. You can give it any level, and then you can come on, and Jenny and I will watch Doppelgangland while you watch Doppelgangland. You'll be able to see Jenny and I as we talk about the episode and also chat in the room, which is really fun with the many, many people who join us. So we all watch together like a little family. It's great. A reminder that we have lyric sheets up on the site. You can find them on the top bar when you go to bufferingthevampireslayer.com. They will be up through the month of February. All proceeds are going to benefit the Brown Boy Project. So head on over there, the top bar on the site. You'll see it and grab one for the month of February. We're really excited to support their work. Also, because we have discussed Earshot today, which deals with suicide, I wanted to put right here in the podcast a couple of suicide resources. There is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline here in the U.S., 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. And I also want to mention the Trevor Project, the leading national organization providing crisis intervention and suicide prevention to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning young people. You can reach them at 1-866-488-7386. Again, that's 866-488-7386. Those resources will be also in our show notes. Thank you again, Joanna, for being here with us. Jenny, let's howl out. Until next time,
Ow! Bum, 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 bum. No one sees me, I'm right here. Might as well just disappear. No. Can I go now? Can I go now? Don't know what this has to do with me. Can I go now? Can I go now? Don't know what this has to do with me. If I am my thoughts, can I go now? And my thoughts are what this has to do with me. Who's thinking me is? Can I go now? To reality. Don't know what this has to do with me. Oh my God, it's a lot. Give me silence. So many voices in my head. Can't shut it off through the noise. Someone saying, next day coming, we'll all be dead. Oh my God, it's a lot. Give me silence. So many voices in my head. Can't shut it off through the noise. Someone saying, next day coming, we'll all be dead. Those handcuffs, that cop car, long night I can't forget. If she can't heal, if she can't heal, if she can't heal, she will go insane. If she can't heal, if she can't heal, if she can't heal, she will go insane. If she can't heal, if she can't heal, if she can't heal, she will go insane. Oh my God, it's a lot. Give me silence. So many voices in my head. Can't shut it off through the noise. Someone saying, next day coming, we'll all be dead. You can see me standing here. I don't have to disappear.
I'm Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life.
Gosh, people will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you know what lies within nothing?
No.
Do you know where it ends? Do you want to know?
Yes. Counterbalance, a high fantasy audio drama. Season 2, coming 15th of October 2023. Learn more on trilunas.com.